Hello everyone, I'm Diana
And I'm Polly.
and this is our second video for the mental chat. We actually asked this time, what topics we should talk about, and we appreciate everyone who gave us feedback. The topic that we're going to talk about today is things that you should say or shouldn't say to a loved one who is currently depressed or someone who is dealing with depression. So we're going to give you examples of things that we have heard or have been told to us that weren't very helpful, and give you examples of what you can say instead. And again, we are not psychologists, we're not professionals in the field, but everything we say is based on experience and our own research. So hopefully you guys find this video helpful.
Yes, so our first topic that we were talking about is things to say, like just be positive. And I got that a lot as I was going through my journey, and it seems like something so simple, and so just be positive and everything will be okay.
Have happy thoughts, don't think negative.
But when you're dealing with depression and you're very deep into depression, it's not that simple. You can't just get rid of it with positive thoughts. Actually, you don't have any positive thoughts coming your way. So you hearing that, you're like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? Like, how is that going to help?
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why those things or that term, like stay positive, be happy, have happy thoughts, whatever, is used is because people confused being sadness with depression. Because I would tell you that if you were having a bad day or whatever, so I would tell you have happy thoughts. But if you're depressed, that's totally different.
Yeah.
And also a big reason why it's not very helpful is because 9 times out of 10 you probably don't know why that person is depressed. So kind of like how we mentioned in the first video, like your situation was more like biological, right? So you needed like a chemical imbalance. So if that person has that, they're gonna need medication, or they're gonna need therapy. So happy thoughts are not gonna make it go away. Maybe that person has unresolved trauma from their childhood, or maybe something happened to them recently and they're not telling you that. So for you to kind of make that assumption that happy thoughts are gonna make it go away, it's not helpful, especially when you don't know why that person is depressed. And a lot of the times that person might not even know themselves. So it's just, it can sometimes be more harmful than helpful.
Yeah, it seems something that you could help someone, because a lot of the times when someone's really upset, you give them hey, just think everything's gonna be okay, and you feel it, oh, okay, I feel better now. But this is something that's been ongoing. Once you're
deep in depression,
you're in depression, you're not, didn't just happen yesterday. This has been going on for some time, and it could be, like she said, it could be trauma, it could be stress, it could be just something built in, and it's
biological.
Yeah, so at that point you're not thinking straight. You're not what you're telling me is not going to help. So we thought about some things to say instead, and maybe more encouraging things. Maybe you yourself be positive. You be the positive person to someone that's going through depression. Why don't we just take it day by day? Instead of being why don't you be more positive? Say, why don't we try different things? Tomorrow, let's hope that maybe tomorrow will be a better day. That's actually better to hear than saying you need to do this, you should be doing this. It removes the guilt from the person, because it seems like if someone tells me it's you're not doing this, then it's it goes on to me that this is my fault then, because I'm not thinking positive. I'm not going up in skies, I'm being negative, so it's me. No, you can't have to remove the guilt from the person.
Another thing is you can, especially if you've never been depressed or you've never had a loved one go through it and you're not familiar at all with how that works or why that person's going through it, you could just say, you know what, I'm not sure what's going on, just know that I'm here for you. if that person's a friend, you could say, I hope you realize that our friendship is a non-judgment zone, so no matter what happens, like, I'm just here for you. I'm only a phone call away. Maybe I can't help you, but I can help you get help. And that's really all that you need to do. You don't have to solve the problem for them. You just have to make it known that you're there for that person. And like Fali said, it takes away the guilt. It takes away them feeling like it's something that they're doing wrong.
And something that can also help is listening and asking questions. Well, how does it feel, or how can I help? Things that are encouraging, instead of saying, well, you're not doing this, or you're not feeling this way.
Yeah. So that's kind of like a brief like suggestion. Instead of saying, just be more positive, think happy thoughts, maybe change the narrative and say those things instead, you know, especially like I said, if you don't know why that person's depressed, you don't want to just make that assumption.
Yeah, and then that's the biggest thing, making assumptions of how that person is feeling. Instead ask, how's it like? I know for me, if someone said, how can I help, or how is it that you're feeling, and maybe they won't even get into the root of it. Obviously, like, they might not. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I couldn't explain it, but at least having that compassion and not just assuming, oh, well, you're doing this wrong, that's why you're feeling like this. It took away that, like, burden that it was on me. Just like, well,
especially when you're a happy person. Like, I know, like, we're very positive, so
yeah.
It's like, if you're a positive person and you find yourself going through this terrible depression, and someone's telling you that you're not happy enough or positive enough, it's kind of like a slap in the face. Like, don't you know me?
Yeah, like, I know how that feels. I know what feeling positive is.
Yeah. This is completely out of my control.
But
yeah.
This is not but it feels, you can't control it. It's like a disease.
Yeah.
It's eating you. Like, okay, let me no, I can't find it. I don't know where to find it. It's not a drug or anything.
Yeah.
That you could just take.
So that's one of the things that are commonly said, or that we've been told or heard people say. Another thing is, you should try to eat healthier and be more active. Like, you need to work out more. And I mean, what I was gonna say, I feel like these things are, like, they're obvious. Like, yes, we should all be more active. We should all eat healthier. But when someone is already in this deep state of depression, first of all, sometimes you can't even get out of bed. So telling this person, go to the gym, it's like a foreign language. Like, that's not helpful. And also, it's assuming that, or making the assumption that by them suddenly, eating a green smoothie or eating something healthy, it's gonna, like, bam, make the depression go away. And that's not how it works. Eating healthy, being active, it's something that we should all do to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And maybe that's something that needs to be focused on once that person is in recovery. Like, once they saw a doctor and are getting help, and they establish that in their lifestyle, then yes, that's great. But someone who's already, deep in depression and is currently struggling, that might not be very helpful.
Yeah, I feel like if you think about it, like, if this was a cancer and you tell someone who has cancer to work out, it's a little too late for that, don't you think? Like, I don't think that's gonna get rid of my cancer. Yeah. And if you see it that way, you can realize, hey, no, that's working out and eating healthy is really good. It definitely, there's been a lot of benefits there. Yeah.
It's like a preventive thing.
It's preventative care, but you need more to get to that level of, okay, then now I can do preventative from this happening again, because I am doing everything, like, as far as my inside, my biological. But it's not going to fix it. And I mean, I feel like, yes, it might help, but it's not something that someone can do at that moment. I wasn't.
It's like, really hard.
It's harsh. Like, you work out. No, I'm not gonna work out. Like, I don't feel like
sometimes, and every person's different. Everyone's depression looks different. But a lot of the times when you're in that deep state, like I said, sometimes you can't even get out of bed. Sometimes you can even force yourself to do the basic things, like, brush your hair or take a shower or drive a car or go to work. So adding these like workouts, or go for a run, or you need to change your eating habits. It's like you're dropping a bomb because now they feel this change that they have to do where they can't even do the basic things.
So we thought about what you could actually say, and instead maybe there's something that that person liked to do before, and maybe you can encourage them to do it with you again. Like, hey, let's try to take this yoga class, or do it in a way that it's not so diminished. Like, well, this is your fault because you're not working out, you're not eating the smoothies, you got yourself into this hole again, playing the burden on the person, which is not what it is.
Yeah, so like maybe very casually telling them, like, hey, there's this new hiking trail that I've been wanting to hike. Did you maybe want to join me? No pressure. I just thought it would be a nice way for us to, spend some time together, hang out. Don't worry if we don't finish it, we can always come back home.
Yeah.
Or I know like gyms have those guest passes, so maybe you could tell them, hey, I have this free pass for the gym. I know you're not really feeling like going out, but you never know, we might have a good time, and if you don't want to finish whatever workout we're doing, we'll come back. Like, it's very like more of a date idea or like a hangout activity than you're depressed because you don't work out enough or you're not active enough. Because if that was the case, there wouldn't be any athletes that get depressed. And there's lots of athletes that get depressed, and they're very active and eat healthy.
Yeah, so that's definitely.
Yeah, so that's like I said, it's a good way to maintain a healthy lifestyle. But if someone's already in that deep hole, it's not very helpful.
Again, you have to understand that that person is also very reluctant. I know that for me, that I was not taking any advice, like especially unsolicited advice. Like, I didn't ask you for help. This is just shit I'm going through. Like, I think, and it's hard because I even went to the doctor, and the doctor would tell me different things to do, and they were actually like prescriptions basically of things that I had to do, and I didn't want to do it. You don't want to do anything, so it's getting through that. Once you start hitting those barriers and going through them, it makes it easier, and you might want to be more like, okay, I'm ready to be active now, I'm ready to eat healthy.
Especially if it's like kind of how we said with the like activity idea, it's more like we're just hanging out, like, but it's an active thing. Or we're not going to Burger King, we're going to like this healthy like green salad place, but it's not, you're not telling them to just do it. It's more like, let's hang out, and then you get something out of it, something positive out of it. But it changes again the narrative of what you're trying to do with that help than just telling them that's why they're depressed. This third thing that we're gonna talk about can be a little bit how do you say, like, I don't want to say awkward, but like
not
controversial,
awkward. Maybe controversial. And
disclaimer, we're only bringing it up because we both experienced it, and we'll talk about a little bit about our experience, but it's about religion. I know I was told when I was like very depressed, pretty much suicidal, I was told that I needed to go to church, that I needed Jesus, that I needed to find Jesus, right? While I think that spirituality and your connection to God, or whatever it is that you want to label it, is important, and it can be very helpful for some people because of the reason why they're depressed, it doesn't mean that it's going to help everyone. So in my personal case, the reason why when people told me that it hurt me instead of helped me, it was because, and we talked about this in the first video, like her depression is different than mine. And so in my case, my depression was because of my lifestyle. So I was very controlling. I needed to be good at everything. I had all these things on my plate. I was like this overachiever, right? So eventually I crashed. And so when people told me this, that I needed to add religion to my life, and I needed to volunteer, and I needed to do all these things with religion, in my mind I'm thinking that's another thing to add to my plate, and it stressed me out even more. I didn't think about the spiritual part. I didn't think of like the get closer to God part. In my mind I was thinking that's something else I have to do, and it made me feel worse. So again, if you don't know why that person is depressed, then sometimes suggesting certain things can hurt them instead of help them. So I don't know what your experience was with.
Yeah, I
religion.
think for me it's more, and I don't know if this is just like the Hispanic community where, especially if they're very big on religion, that it's, for me it was like, oh, well, you're feeling this way because you're not close to God. And I'm like, are you serious? This is my fault. And again, placing that blame and that hurt, like, it makes it worse. It's not something that can make it better. Instead of say like, why don't we try this, especially if that person was already spiritual. And you never want to just inflict something on someone that isn't already like involved in it, or has suggested or even tried it, because it's not something, this is a disease, and I'm sorry, but you can't take it away like by going to church. It's kind of going back into that, well, if you think positive, well,
yeah. And the tricky part is that because every depression looks differently and everyone has different reasons, you don't know why that person is feeling that way. So for all you know, maybe we had this talk, maybe that person is depressed because of something that happened in the church, or maybe the pressure they had from being involved with certain restrictions within the church. And so just assuming that that's why, it can be very hurtful. And I don't mean hurtful as in like feelings hurt, it's more as in it's going to be harder for them to get over their depression. Yeah,
because you need to understand that this is like, for me it was more of a chemical imbalance. So that wouldn't have helped me, because I needed something that maybe talking to someone wasn't going to help. And I remember even going into my therapy, and they even suggested saying, we can give you therapy, but we can also, if you are in a church organization and you feel more comfortable in a group environment where you can talk to people. So that's why we're saying we're not going against the church. If you have an organization that deals with depression, and there is some religions that do that, they have counselors and they deal with depression and anxiety, I'm all for it like that, because you get to build your spirituality and get help as well. So.
Yeah, this is more towards people who, going back to the whole being judgmental, like you're just assuming like, well, yeah, I don't think you're very involved with your church, so that's why you're depressed. That's where the issue is. I think that there are a lot of people who have never had maybe a guidance, or maybe they weren't close to their family, and when they went to church they found that they found what they were missing, and it helped them, and I think that's great. But if you don't know why that person's depressed, that assumption is not going to be helpful at all.
Yeah, no, it won't help. So that's
what are some other things that you would say have been said? Because I know for me it was those three things.
I think it just all collides about that, not having compassion, and when you're assuming how someone's feeling, assuming what their needs are, you can't solve it. I couldn't even solve it with a professional in one sitting. Yeah, this has taken me over a year to feel better, and it's months and months of talking to someone, medication, what have you. So there's no like quick fix.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the stigma that we're so, especially when it's a loved one going through it, we're so used to wanting to fix it right away. So for example, if I'm not a mother, but I'm assuming if you have kids and your kid's telling you, Mom, I have a headache or I have a stomach ache, you give the medicine and it goes away. So it's like our instinct to want to fix whatever is wrong with our loved one or with our friend. But with depression, it doesn't work that way. Nothing that you say or do is going to be a quick fix. It's not going to be that magic pill that's going to make it go away. So what you can do is just, like Fali said, listen, be non-judgmental, be compassionate, and try to understand why they're feeling that way in the first place, because once you know the why, it might be easier to get help that way. Because like how with Fali, her why was a mixture of things and it was chemicals. So like she knew what she needed to do to get help. For me, it was a lifestyle change. So the way that people could help me was to support this new lifestyle change that I needed to adapt. So that's how you start. You find out the why, but do it in a way that's not non-judgmental. It's compassionate, and you don't have to know all the answers. No one. A lot of times you'll never get a why. Unfortunately, sometimes you just won't. But as long as you're there for that person and they feel like you're there no matter what, then that's more than sometimes you can do.
Yeah, and a lot of it, what it is having that patience for someone.
Yeah,
because you're going to see someone have a good day, and then you're going to see someone have a bad day, and you're not going to know what you're going to get, and it sucks, but imagine at least it's not you going through it, so it's hard. You can't just say, oh, well, you had a really good day yesterday, so why are you feeling like this now? Like, did you not take your smoothie? Did you not? Yeah. Did
you forget your medication? And it's like, even with the medication, it takes time.
Even with the medication, it's not. I still have bad days. It's not something.
Which brings also, I guess, another thing is victimization. Because I know I heard that too. It was after I was getting help and I started to feel a little bit better. I still had my bad days, and then the like things that were being said were well, stop playing victim. Like, it's been a year or it's been 6 months or whatever. Like, you need to stop playing victim. And it's like, it's a recovery. It's a process. So like Fali said, you're going to have some really, really good days. And then you're going to have a really horrible day. And then the next day it's going to be okay. And then the following day it's going to be bad again. And it's just like up and down, good, bad, okay. And so you have to be patient. If you're going through it, you have to be patient. And if you're someone who is watching a loved one go through it, you also have to be patient.
And then one of the things that I've been asked is like, well, why are you depressed? I'm like, it's not a good way of saying it, asking it. Like, I don't know. Like, what does that feel like? How are you feeling? What's going on? What's going on in your head? Like, what are those feelings like? I think that's more than why are you depressed, because that is the guilt. Like, there is a reason why you're like this. No, there's no reason. If there was, like, I would fix it.
Yeah, sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. And it's also, you can also ask someone in the way where you're putting it back on yourself, like, hey, I hope I'm not crossing any like boundaries, but I'd like to educate myself more about mental health or depression, and I was told, or I found out, or I heard that you have gone through it. Do you think you can give me some information of how you felt, so if a loved one goes through it, I know what to look for in symptoms or how to help? That's different, because now you're wanting to like learn about it, not just be like, well, why are you depressed? Like, because I've had that, and it's like,
it's not what
like, are you being nosy, or do you actually care?
Yeah.
And are you being judgmental if I tell you?
Yes.
So there's a difference. But is there something else that you can think of?
I think this is all as far as this topic goes.
Yeah, I mean, from the top of my head, it would be that be more positive, be healthier, like work out more. You need religion in your life.
Why are you depressed?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Or and then stop being a victim. Yeah. So these things are things that are often said, but it could be expressed differently, especially if you've never gone through it, or if you've never seen a loved one go through it. It's important to be aware of that, because it can completely change the conversation that you have with that person and how comfortable they are with sharing information with you. So definitely. It completely changes the narrative. So that's why it's important to keep that in mind. And we're not trying to sound like super sensitive, like, why are you being so sensitive about how I asked you a question? You have to understand that when you're depressed, it's not you being yourself, your regular self. You're sick. And so when you ask certain things a certain way, it can trigger certain feelings or certain emotions that just make you feel worse.
Yeah, and this is discretion, having discretion for the person.
Yeah, so that's all we have for this video and this topic. If we think of anything else, we'll go ahead and post it on our Instagram. If you're not following it, make sure you follow us. It's at The Mental Chat on Instagram. And we also wanted to say thank you to the people who gave us feedback and constructive criticism during our first video. We were really nervous. We still get really nervous.
We still are.
We still are. It's not easy, being vulnerable and like sharing certain things. So we appreciate everyone who gave us feedback, who left us a comment, send us a message, because it just kind of like motivates us to continue to talk about this and make these videos. So
yeah. And if there's anything else that you guys could think of that would be very interesting or very good for us to talk about, definitely tell us, and we can put it in the next video.
Yeah, so we're hoping to make more of these videos, at least once a month, but we could do more, then we will. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of different topics that we can talk about, so any feedback helps.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you guys.